Well, all right, people. So I want to do a video here talking on my thoughts about the Goldberg match. The match actually exceeded my expectations, which isn't saying much because the expectation was it would be a 4-minute squash match. So when we say, well, the match exceeded our expectations were already in the toilet coming into it. But at least it was longer than 4 minutes. At least he went out there and put on somewhat of an effort. I'm not a big Goldberg fan over the last 10 years and all these squash matches he's done. But at least it was a little bit better this time. It wasn't a dud, but it wasn't like a 5-star great match either. Probably, I would say, somewhere in the middle. It was very average. The build to the match sucked. It was only 3 weeks long. I know Goldberg said something about it in an interview that he wasn't happy about it. Again, not a big Goldberg fan recently. You know, obviously his days in WCW, he was a legend, but again, not a big fan of bringing legends back, especially when it's 3-minute squash matches. You know, gets a $20 million check to wrestle a 4-minute match. But, you know, if you're going to build this as his retirement match or whatever the fuck, which in WWE and wrestling in general doesn't mean anything when people say retirement. I can't believe they even still use this word in wrestling, like the Cena retirement tour. You know, Goldberg's last match. Like, this word should never be used again because it means nothing. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to build it, though, like, it should not be a 3-minute or a 3-week build. Like, make it longer. Make it seem like a more interesting match. It really didn't have, like, a big fight feel to it. Kind of just felt like a random match. But I guess it's better than not getting any build at all because we've seen that before. So then, probably the biggest controversy is what happened after the match, where they cut off Goldberg's speech. Now, I don't know whose fault it was. I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. Nobody knows. But that was just fucked up. That was a really bad look for WWE. And say what you want about like the Vince McMahon era and the Kevin Dunn era of like the 2010s, which sucked with some of the worst wrestling in history, worst storylines in history, worst gimmicks in history. But at the very least, you wouldn't see something like this in that era. The production with WWE has always been spot on, I think. But they dropped the ball here. And really the only person you could directly blame, in my opinion, is Triple H. Because like he's the head guy. He's out there talking about how he's the head guy and everything. So, I mean, it comes down to Triple H at the end of the day, the captain of the ship. Like, you can't have something like this happen. Especially in a big moment like this. I mean, this isn't like a jobber match with like Heath Slater. I mean, this is a big time match, arguably one of the biggest moments of the year right here. And this is how it goes out with Goldberg getting cut off during his speech. Just totally embarrassing. I mean, WWE is supposed to be the cream of the crop. They're the top wrestling company in the world. And for something like this to happen, just a really, really bad look. So there's my thoughts on the Goldberg thing. I also want to talk about the women's, or the divas as I like to call them still. Oh, Ruthless Rancher, that's sexist. Nah, I still like the word divas. I'm an old timer, I guess. You know, I'm getting old. I have not come around to the current time just yet. But yeah, I want to talk about the divas because I heard they had an all-women pay-per-view. Now, this is a terrible idea because you would never have an all-male pay-per-view, or at least it wouldn't be billed like that, because people, you know, the same people saying like this pay-per-view was amazing and, you know, praising this pay-per-view as like 6 out of 5 stars would be the same people that if WWE had an all-male pay-per-view would say that that's sexist. And there's just been this fascination with the Divas division over the last 5 to 10 years that everything a man has to do, the women have to do. Whether it's Hell in the Cell, Extreme Rules match. Now, this is probably a controversial opinion, but if it were up to me, Divas wrestling would not exist for a couple reasons. One being women are physically inferior to men, so their wrestling matches are just by default worse. And secondly, to me, just women wrestling like that is just weird. Like, women should not be fighting each other. Like, you can kind of get guys fighting each other because that's kind of what guys are built to do. We're built to compete with one another. So it's more natural for two guys to go out there and wrestle. It's more believable. But to see two women go out there and fight, it's just, to me, it's always been weird. Like, women are supposed to be like soft and feminine creatures, right? Like, not out there kicking each other's asses. So if it were up to me, Divas Wrestling would not exist. If you go back to and look at, like, let's say the top 25 moments in wrestling history, how many of those, would include women? Probably none. Maybe one. Maybe one or two. But most of them are going to be male moments. And I don't mean like, oh, the woman was, Jillian Michaels, the ring announcer. I mean actually in the like a main character in the moment. Like almost all of the classic moments and matches in wrestling are men. So you got a lot of people saying this was like the greatest pay-per-view ever. A lot of women on in the IWC and even men for that matter in the IWC saying like this was like a really great show. Like, I'm just so sick of the obsession with Divas Wrestling. I've talked about the fans of wrestling being morons in the past, but especially the fans of Divas Wrestling are just in a totally different category. And I've also talked about like the women that watch wrestling are kind of unattractive, both inside and outside, if we're, being quite honest about it. The men that obsess over Divas Wrestling are just simps. You see a lot of people posting pictures of the divas online and obsessing over how attractive they are. Like, if you're doing that, you really need to get a life. Like, you're not 16. You're an adult. Get a life. Don't obsess over women you're never going to meet in real life. Go out, try to meet some women at a bar or something like that. But the people posting pictures of divas on their Twitter feed are losers. But yeah, to have an All Divas pay-per-view was just stupid. It would be the equivalent of like, oh, it's the NBA Finals. But instead of airing the conference finals, we're going to take that off the air and insert a WNBA conference finals in that place. And we're not even going to air the conference finals of the men. Have fun. Like, that would be the equivalent. Again, not a fan of Divas Wrestling. Never have been. I think it's very overrated by the IWC. Is it better than it was 10 or 15 years ago? Probably, but that's not saying much. And I really want to go back to the time when it really was shitty, like 10 or 15 years ago. Because everybody agreed it was shitty. And it was just something we could make fun of. Whenever we saw Divas Wrestling on TV, oh, time to go take a break, and we needed those breaks when Raw was 3 hours of shit back in the day. So when we saw the Divas match, all right, time to go, take a little quick nap for 10 or 15 minutes before the main event comes on. So I really yearn for those days when Divas Wrestling sucked. Everybody knew it sucked. There was no idiots on Twitter saying, "Oh, how great is this match? How great is Bayley?" I saw Naomi coming out to the ring, cashing in Money in the Bank, and she's wearing like caution tape all over herself. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, just wear something normal, please. Like, oh, caution, it's Naomi. Yeah, caution. This pay-per-view fucking sucks because it's all women wrestling. So I'm really sick of the obsession with Divas Wrestling. We've heard about it for years now. It's been shoved down our throats artificially. And I really hope that WWE adopts my idea of totally banning women from wrestling roles. Like, if they want to be a commentator or if they want to be an announcer, whatever, or a GM. But I don't think they should be physically fighting on the show. I think if you inserted men in their roles, the men would be better. And also, too, men are just better at promos, I think. Like, again, can you name, like, a classic Divas promo? Like, I could give you a bunch of classic, like, really great male promos off the top of my head, whether it's Steve Austin's promo, the CM Punk pipe bomb promo. I can go on and on and on. The Rock has many classic promos. I mean, can you name, like, a classic Divas promo? Maybe, like, one, but not many. So it's always my opinion, male wrestling is better than female wrestling, and women wrestling should not exist. So there you go, people. There's my thoughts on that.